G'day fellas, and welcome to a build order breakdown. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the White Tower All-In. This is a strategy that I've been using on the 1v1 ranked ladder, and it is a strategy that's similar to almost a Burgrave All-In for the Holy Roman Empire. I had a couple people message me after I posted up some videos just using this strategy, just wondering if they could get a deep dive into this build order. So let's take a little bit of a look at it and talk about the strengths, the weaknesses, and of course how to do it. So to start off the build order, we're going to take all 6 villages, and we're going to be sending them to build a barracks. We need this barracks up as soon as we possibly can. We're also going to make sure that we queue up 2 villages in the town center, and we're going to be sending our scout to collect the sheep, and then head over to the enemy side of the map. There's a couple other things that we'll need to do, but we'll stop along the way as we continue doing it. So after we've queued the villagers, drop the racks and move the scouts, what we're then going to do is make sure that we have one villager come back and kill this sheep a little bit early. You can see right there he comes, or she comes. We've also going to make one villager make a house, and then every other villager is going to go back to sheep. So we're as efficient as possible. 18 seconds, you should be having your first men-at-arms in the queue. Now that we've done that, we're going to rally our first villager over to food. So we've got a total of 7 on food, including this houseville. And then from there, we're going to start rallying to our straggler trees. We want to go up to a total of 3 villagers on straggler trees. The men-at-arms is out. Now, if you get a good spawn, there's a chance that you can be on the enemy's doorstep, attacking their villagers before 1 minute and 20 seconds. It will completely deny any age up, with the exception of the Rus. And because of that, you can see right here, we've actually got a pretty damn good spawn. A front gold, our enemy's expanding to it. Obviously, it's an easy AI, but that's designed just so that we've got an environment that's not going to go a little bit out of whack, just so that we can demonstrate everything. So the men-at-arms is coming out. Now it's important just to open with 1 men-at-arms and then just continue villager production. We're going to add in a second men-at-arms, but we can't do that straight away because we did use all of our villagers to build the barracks. So we need to make sure that we maintain villager production. Don't fall for the scout. If the enemy attacks you with the scout, don't fall for it. Just go straight for that gold mine. Go straight for those villagers. And you can see right now, he's taken 50 gold off this thing. And he could probably get enough gold to age up here. This is quite early to have 4 vills on it. You can see the pressure that we're putting on is going to prevent gathering of this gold, at least initially. If you're playing in your 1v1 ranked games, highly likely that the enemy is going to going to run away from you the same way that this AI did. So now that we've got 3 vills on gold, now that we've got the 7 vills on food, the 3 vills on straggler trees, we're going to start taking gold. So we're going to go up to 5 villagers on gold. And when your food permits, make sure you add in that second men-at-arms. It's really important not to go more than 2 men-at-arms, except against the English, because ideally you want to be aging up as quickly as possible. Now we've done a loop with our scout. You can see that we've come around, we've looked for the gold vein. As soon as we found the gold vein, then we've just gone and peeled off. It's all about finding that gold vein, or at least finding the town center, so you can know where you should be stepping and where you shouldn't be stepping. Another little thing that you can do, so you can see me moving my men-at-arms around like this, you've got to be very careful to avoid taking damage from the enemy town center. So what you'll need to do is make sure that you put your men-at-arms on stand ground. So you can see right there that the men-at-arms did move to stand ground. That's going to allow him to siege, and if any units come up and try and attack him, he'll be able to return fire. So now that we've begun taking gold, we're up to 4 villagers on gold. We're going to add in a mill as soon as we've got the wood for it. And from here, we're going to be looking to research our wheelbarrow. This wheelbarrow comes in at a timing, I think it's 3 minutes and 18 seconds. I'll have to double check and see. I might be a mile off. Actually, you know what? I think I might be a mile off. It might be 3 minutes and 8 seconds. There you go. 3 minutes and 4 seconds, a mile off. So, you know what? I think it might be 4:18 that the age up comes through. But anyway, you get the point. So we go up to a total of 5 villagers here on gold. And these gold villagers are going to stay there for the rest of the game. So this is part of the build order. We try and look for efficiencies where we can and minimize the villager movement that's going to be happening. So now that we've got our 5 vills on gold, every villager from here on in goes to food. Every single one for the rest of the game goes to food. Now, we do take villagers off food, but we're always rallying to food. You know, typically you're going to be rallying to wood and adding in farms, but not here, not as the English. We're going to be rallying to food. So now that we've added in our second house, which you can do once you hit 20 population, you'll always be able to make it. We're going to start adding in farms. And the idea is that we want to take our villagers off food and begin transitioning them over to farms. Now, you can see where I've placed my mill. This is a really important position to place your mill, just simply because it gives you access to the most efficient initial farms. It also gives you the ability to go up to a total of 10 farms So that's really important because we want to avoid making additional mills just because it's an extra 50 wood that we shouldn't have to take. So now that age up is about to come through, so you can see the resources that we're slowly bringing in. Now I'm a little bit late to drop down my council hall, so you will have to forgive me here, but 420 is a decent timing for you, a decent benchmark that you can be using. So we're going to use 2 villagers from food to put our council hall up. And then they're going to return back to food. And at the same time, we're just going to continue rallying to food or to sheep. And making sure that we take our villagers off the sheep and putting them on to our farms. At the same time, we want to make sure that we don't lose our men-at-arms. We just want to be annoying with them and just drawing our enemy's attention with them. So if they do look to put an outpost up here, you don't have to try and siege down the outpost or anything like that. All you need to do is just send your men-at-arms out and then bring them back in and just try and force your enemy to idle. Make sure that you're always producing villagers throughout this game as well. You want to make sure that you're not going idle. You can see right there that we haven't been idle for a single second, and that's always good. And another small thing that you can also look to do is take advantage of your straggler trees. Don't stomp them. That's what I call them when you build a building on top of them. Avoid building buildings on top of your straggler trees because these guys are much closer to your town center, so you can utilize the wood that you're getting from these straggler trees without creating a lumber camp and look to get these farms sooner. And the sooner you get these farms, then the longer that your sheep are going to last. And therefore, it just enables you to have a smoother transition throughout the game. At the same time, we're making sure that we're just continuing to scout out the rest of the map. We might be looking for relics later on in the game, or maybe we want to try and deny some resources from our enemy. So those are all considerations that we're going to make. But we need to be careful at this point not to add in too many farms because we are going to need 50 wood for our lumber camp. You can see right there, we've only got enough. We've got 65 wood in the bank, and it might have been tempting to throw down another farm, but we always want to make sure that we've got enough wood in the bank for our lumber camp. So always be cognizant of that. And so from this point, you could expect that your enemy would be looking to try and repel your attack, whether that be through something like archers or horsemen, which are definitely the right choice here. There's a number of other options as well, but the most common thing that you'll probably see players look to do is put an outpost on the resources that you're attacking. The main goals for you are to attack the gold. If you can attack the gold, that's going to be the best because it's going to prevent them from aging up. There's always the option that they move out to a secondary gold, and that's already a victory if you're able to force them to do that because it's far away from their initial town center, so it means a lot of walking distance for you. You've got to remember that the build order that we've got is designed to take advantage of our early game long feudal age, whereas their build order is not going to be designed to do that. Maybe they're looking as the Abbasid dynasty to get up lots of town centers quickly. Well, they're not going to be able to do that if they can't age up. Whereas your plan, it's still going strong. And so now we're going to be aging up to the castle, or rather aging up to the feudal age. It's a late age up, but remember, we're not really looking to try and get up as quickly as possible because we're not going to be utilizing our council hall for longbows. There's a very special need for our wood. You can see our enemy did indeed go for a nice little side mining camp. So what we're going to do is keep adding in our farms with our wood on the backside here, and we're going to be aging up. We're going to take 10 villages, and they're going to be our sheep villages. We're going to make sure that we walk 10 villages away, and then we're going to drop down the white tower. We want to put it in the front of our base. Ideally, we want to put it on a resource, but here, there's nothing really at the front of my base to put it on, so I just throw it down right here next to the wood line, which I think is going to be fine. Now, a lot of people will use the white tower as a defensive landmark, and it's great for that, but it also doubles in this new patch as an offensive landmark in the fact that it produces units so quickly. So we're going to be focusing on getting out knights as quickly as we possibly can. When it comes to the age up time, I think we're looking at just over 8 minutes 30, but I'll double check it obviously as we get in. But I want you to use that as your own benchmark when you're playing your games. Try and use the times that I've got because they're quite min-maxed. Obviously, there's a couple of late villages onto the council hall, but it doesn't really affect the build order, the time that you age up to the feudal age. Ideally, you just want to try and defend against an enemy just using your town center without making too many units. So you can see we queued up a longbow there, and for very good reason. That's so I'm reminded to talk about it. Don't queue up longbows. What we're going to do, and I'm just going to pause quickly, what our goal is right now is we're actually going to be looking to get +1 ranged armor on our knights. And if we're queuing up longbows, we're not going to have the wood to do it. But we are going to need more villagers on wood. So those 10 villagers that we sent to the White Tower, now what we're going to do with those is we're going to take 5 villagers and we're going to put them over on the gold, and 5 villagers are going to go out to wood. Once again, we're still rallying to food, so it makes it very, very simple for us. We don't have to change the town center. All we have to do is just remember, use that as a mental point. Say, okay, my white tower is dropped. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rally those 5 villages. So I'm going to build my white tower, then I'm going to grab 5 villages, shift click them to gold, grab the other 5, shift click them out to wood. So that's essentially what you're doing. From here, we're just looking to spam knights. The idea with our knights is we never want to engage spearmen in large numbers. We can engage them in small numbers, but not large numbers. We will eventually have longbows and crossbows that are going to be able to help us deal with those. The idea with the knights is to maintain mobility and to kill villagers. This is a very early age up with early knights coming through for the English. It's about as early as you can get without going for things like wheelbarrow or without going for things like the men-at-arms. It's incredibly early to have these out. So before 9 minutes, the first knight is on the field, heading towards the enemy side of the map. And once again, we're just looking to stall out the enemy economy and look to try and focus on that goal. That's going to be the real key here, because the enemy might be thinking about going to castle. And if that's the case, they'll have access to crossbows. We want to prevent that. So now that we've built up enough wood, we're going to drop down our blacksmith. And the blacksmith technology that we're looking for is iron undermesh. That's going to increase the armor on our knights from 4 up to 5. And you might not think that that's a big deal going from 4 to 5. But what I want you to take note of is just how much damage a town center does when it's got villagers inside. Now, the first arrow of a town center does 8 damage. Every villager, that when you put it inside that town center, let's take a look and see if our enemies actually got them. They do indeed. They do 6 damage. 6 damage for every arrow. Which means that at 4 armor, those arrows are doing 2 damage to your knights. That's a lot of damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to get +1. That's going to take us up to 5 armor. And now all of a sudden, we're only going to be taking 1 damage for every arrow that comes from the town center. And it allows us to stay under the town center for almost twice as long. Effectively twice as long. And because of that, that's why this technology is so damn important for us. So now, you might be thinking about going for other landmarks. Like, the thought might have crossed your mind, like, Drongo, why don't you just go for Abbey of Kings, try and get the king out nice and early? It just doesn't make sense, right? Because we're already going castle age, we're going to have access to knights anyway. The king is just basically a knight. It's a little bit different, obviously, but it's essentially the same thing. We're going to be there anyway. What we need this council hall for is this production right now. We are going to be kicking our economy into overdrive. We're going to just be focusing on making units. And that's why I call this the Burgrave of the English, because what we're doing is quite literally going all in. Obviously, when it comes to going all in, quote unquote, there's still a lot of things about this build order that make it very strong. The fact that we look to try and pick up upgrades like wheelbarrow, we've got our farming economy moving in, we're very safe with our white tower. There's no chance of us really dying to anything early on because we're playing English, and we've got plenty of villagers underneath the town center that are ready to jump inside. So there's a lot of things that are insulating us from any kind of early aggression. And at the same time, we continue scaling into the late game because of our farms. We never really look to add in a town center, but there is always the option for you to look to pick up relics. So once again, we haven't moved any villagers from our initial allocation. The only exception was the white tower. Everything else is still rallied to food. You can see it right here. We're still rallying to food. When you go idle on food, we're just going to start moving out to berries. We'll add in a farm, or we'll add in a mill, and then start ringing around our farms. As your longbows start to build up, you're going to be utilizing them to try and take out any enemy spears. Whether you look to try and bait them out, and then begin attacking them. But we can see right here the town center, just how little damage it is doing to one of our knights. It allows us to attack the town center, or not necessarily attack the town center, but attack the villagers under the town center with impunity. So we really want to make sure that we're picking up that upgrade. And now, one of the great things about this build order comes back to that idea of the Burgrave. We're able to spend our resources faster than we can make them. And that's a really good thing, because as we can see, all of our resources are really low. Eventually, what's going to happen is your food is going to start overtaking every other resource that you've got, because you're sending villagers to food. So that means that you can change things like the composition that you've got. So you can start adding in more horsemen or more men-at-arms, or you can start pulling villagers off food and putting them out over onto gold, putting them onto wood, putting them onto stone, putting them wherever you like. But the idea is that we're just going to keep taking villagers from food as our main resource and then putting them onto other resources. So as the numbers continue building up, once again, what we're going to be looking to do with our knights, and this is a heavy micro build, is we're going to just be looking to try and attack under the town center, look to try and take out enemy villagers under the town center. And that's going to allow us to really start building an economic lead. You know, normally you'd think of building an economic lead through adding in a second town center, something like that, or picking up relics. Here we're actually just building an economic lead by killing enemy villagers, and it's a huge advantage to us. So I'm going to speed up the replay a little bit, and we can talk about some of the weaknesses that this build order's got once we get to the end of it. So what we're going to continue doing here is just producing units. As you can see, the macro behind this is very, very simple. Just the 8 villagers on food is going to give you everything that you need. Now, when it comes to weaknesses of this build order, I would definitely say the Rus is going to be one of them, just simply because early on in games, the Rus aren't going to be looking to access gold. They are going to be looking to access stone. They're quite happy just going wood and food. But by the same token, there's nothing that stops your men-at-arms from preventing that gold from coming in at, say, 4 minutes or 5 minutes, or that stone coming in for the next town center. So there's still a lot that you can do with those men-at-arms, even in that matchup. The only risk that you're going to have is that your enemy looks to go for an archery range, and if they do go for that archery range, then you've already won because you're delaying them, and you're forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. And at the same time, we're going castle, we're doing everything that we want to be doing, and we're very safe when we do it. The only real risk that you might have or that you might run into is an enemy looks to push out and take out your gold. And this can be a big problem. So what you'll need to do in a situation like that is make sure that you avoid adding in 2 or 3 farms and instead look to drop down an outpost on your gold instead. And that's going to enable you to protect your gold. There's nothing that stops you from bringing back your men-at-arms and throwing them in the outpost just so that they can help defend. But the idea is that we really want to be getting to castle as quickly as possible. Avoid going off the rails. Avoid making longbows in the feudal age. Avoid aging up super duper fast, or you don't need to throw in a second town center here. It's not about building up a big economy. It's about killing our enemy, going all in, but at the same time still having some pretty decent economic numbers behind this. So obviously we've got our farm transition completed, and these are English farms, so we're feeling super comfy right now. But that is essentially it. That's the build order. If you've got any questions, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll make sure that I take a look through, help you guys out. But other than that, that has been absolutely it. You can use this in team games. Make sure you hit both players with a single men-at-arms and camp that gold. And other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.